Okay, and you're live, ladies.
Hi. Hi, guys. Welcome to the virtual reading of Doña. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the contributors of our very first Cuenticos. Tonight is sponsored by Dominican Writers, which is a nonprofit literary arts organization founded in 2015, with the mission of advocating for our Dominican stories by promoting and providing them with tools and resources to become published authors, which is what we did. We published our awesome writers. So, okay, so tonight what we're gonna do is, oh, by the way, I'm Yamberlie. I'm the editor of Cuenticos, and I have been working with everybody for the past couple of weeks on these essays, which I love. I'm having in tears, let me just say. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna introduce everybody, and then everyone's gonna have a few minutes to read their, like, a part of their essay. And we'll discuss how it made them feel and how, you know, the whole process of writing it. And then that's when, you know, the audience can go ahead and ask questions if they have any. So have good ones. Okay, so let me start with the introductions. Who's first? Let me see. All right, Catherine. I'm doing alphabetical order, just FYI. So Catherine's first. Catherine Ventura. Where are you? Oh, I see you. Okay. Catherine Ventura is a Dominican-American writer and educator from Paterson, New Jersey. Catherine holds a BA and an MA in English from, is it Seton? Seton? Okay, you know what I mean. Seton Hall University. Currently, she is a doctoral student in the joint PhD program in English and education at the University of Michigan. Her research focuses on the decolonization of Latin youth literacy and the functions of memory in Caribbean Latinidad. In addition to working with youth in nonprofit learning spaces, she teaches university courses in comp and lit. Catherine writes creative nonfiction and poems that center on Dominican girl womanhood and their embodied ways of knowing. Okay. Next
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm so grateful to meet you all. So thank you for having me.
I put a face to the name. I memorize everyone's essays, but it's just like seeing you like in person. It just makes a difference. Okay, let me see who else is here. Elinor. That's how you say it, right? I say it in my head, but not saying it out loud. Just have to make sure. Okay. Elinor Lopez is a writer and researcher from Washington Heights, New York. She loves consuming and creating art and has always turned to creative writing as a way to explore and integrate her various interests. Elinor obtained her BA in math with a minor in psychology from SUNY in 2017, and she is currently doing environmental health research at Columbia University.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And it is really like great to put a like face to all the names and the stories. So really happy to be here.
Thank you for joining. Who's next? Who's here? Let me see. Gotta look at your faces when I introduce you. Okay, Gina. Gina Arias is a Brooklyn-based, Queens-born, Long Island-raised writer. I really like that. Like this. Okay, sorry. Long Island-raised writer who centers on Blackness. Punto. As a youth, she spent her summers in DR. She has had a wonderful life thus far and has always been Mi de aquí, mi de allá. Gina is the writer and narrator for the podcast Excursions with Gina Arias, a storytelling podcast focused on music, community, and resistance that can be found on all podcast platforms and on the YouTube channel Excursions with Gina Arias. You can put the link in the thing.
Okay, I will. Hey, everybody. Thanks for giving us this platform.
Hey, Jocelyn, you're next. Okay. Jocelyn Perez is a daughter, wife, mother, and writer. She was born in the Dominican Republic, but emigrated to New York at an early age. Jocelyn's role as a mother opened the desire to assist in the importance of children's emotions. She loves to write poetry, memoirs, and novelas. She lives in New York with her husband and son. I have printed out more of your bio. If you want to share with us, I think there was more.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. ¿Cómo están? Hola. I just wanted to add, I also have a master's in information technology, and I'm also excited to be here. So thank you, everybody, for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Sorry, I missed that. I had it somewhere. Okay. So next is Jahaira. I gotta see. There you are. Jahaira Castro is an aspiring Dominican American writer and producer. She was born in New Jersey and received her BA from Rutgers.
Yeah.
I promise I say it better in my head than out loud. Okay. History and a master's in journalism from the University of California, Berkeley.
Thank you so much for having me. And want to say that just having read everybody's stories and seeing faces, it just makes it more real and impactful. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, all of you, for actually joining us tonight and taking the time out of your day to read with us your awesome essays. Does anyone have anything to say before we start? Or you want to jump right into the stories? Story time? Okay. Kat, you're first.
Thank you. Again, I'm so happy to be here and I'm so happy to meet you all, even if it's virtual. I feel like the sense of community that we've been able to build even virtually is beautiful. And so I'm just happy to be here and I can't wait to be in dialogue with everybody. Can everybody hear me okay before I start? Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is a piece from my essay, which is Se fue la luz. So I'll just get started. During those years, Se fue la luz meant trying my best to fall asleep inside an inescapable heat and humidity that taunted me for what it seemed to know. But I was not born on its tierra, not made of the same substance, not yet resilient enough to withstand consistent discomfort. Se fue la luz meant hearing the chatter of my teeth and trying to quell my body's shivers with a little dance in the bathtub, while a single stream of cold water, with no way of heating itself, traveled through a pipe and onto the top of my head. Se fue la luz meant all of us kids gathering every night on La Marquesina, waiting for the breeze that would occasionally pass and cool us off as the sky grew darker, waiting for the stories. As soon as we heard the villagers' voices, we'd race to the front of the apartment, hoping to get the best share of the few available. Excitedly, we would recite a line we'd inherited from La Doña's collection of sayings, El que se va de villa pierde la silla. Upon taking our places, we'd see the others making their way towards us, children that lived in La Villa, whom we had befriended, and who would come to gather with us to hear Doña Natalia's stories. Sure enough, as soon as the sun said its final goodbye, Mama Natalia would gracefully take her seat on her rocking chair and begin whichever story she had for us that night. She told stories of the witches she knew in her day and how they were treated by Dominican society, of the atrocities endured by las hermanas Mirabal, of Trujillo's dictatorship and how he elicited a fear felt in every moment and every interaction, but that few dared to name out loud. Of La Ciguapa, a creature of Dominican folklore, whose backward feet, exposed blue skin, and long pitch black hair I dreamt of for so many nights after. On that Marquesina, during those summer nights that remain untainted by time, she told us stories we didn't know we needed, ones we didn't even realize we longed to hold as shards of knowledge, fragments that years later, many years after Mama Natalia ceased to be with us in earthly form, we try to remember, to gather her knowings, to call whatever we made of it our own. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you all listening.
That was beautiful. I don't get tired of reading it. I think the title itself, like Se fue la luz, caught so many people's attention too. It's just like, it just hits home. Everybody knows what that means. Everyone could like, it takes you back there. So let's move on to, different Paquico. Elinor Lopez, Decoding La Doña's Love. If you have the chapbook, it's page 22.
That was just so beautiful, Catherine. Just wanted to comment on that. Very nostalgic feeling. It's amazing. So the title of my essay was called Decoding La Doña's Love. And I'm just gonna read, let's go from the top. So it starts with a little quote, porque mami ha vivido una vida dura, una vida que nunca ha sido de ella, y aún así se le agradece. I met mommy when I arrived in the US in April of 1999. She met me when she birthed me 4 years earlier. Just 15 days after I was born, she found herself living in New York, huddled in a crowded one-bedroom apartment and working odd jobs. Papi's papers hadn't come through. As an immigrant, sparse on funds and obstructed by language and education, her best option to ensure our survival was to send my 2-year-old sister and me off to her campo in the Dominican Republic. She worked to build a solid foundation for us in the US, navigating the harsh new world while we were being cared for by family. Mommy welcomed us once Papi was allowed to travel, and she had landed an apartment in Washington Heights. The memory of walking into that sala lingers heavily on my mind. Tall beige walls and glossy hardwood tiles disappeared behind a cheering crowd of strangers. The blaring music muffled their words as one by one they introduced themselves as my tios, tias, and primos. Confused and overwhelmed by the newness of this place, my sister and I clung to each other. Dizzying notes of powder perfume, beer, and Old Spice engulfed me with every hug. Although a scary moment for 4-year-old me, the lasting impression has grown warm over time. And I would eventually come to know these men, women, and children as my family. The most joyful stranger in the room was crying, smiling, glowing with an overwhelming love. She introduced herself as my mommy. That very moment remains one of the happiest I've seen her in all the years since. And I'll end it there.
You don't realize how common that experience is, for parents to send their kids away and then come into this country until you reach money. It's just wow.
Yeah.
That experience alone has so many emotions attached to it. Thank you. Next up is Gina Arias, Columna Sofocada.
My childhood summers were spent in the Dominican Republic at the home of my maternal grandparents, with an almost complete lack of adult supervision. The days opened with the distant crow of roosters and were filled with a rhythm of my own making. Breakfast was usually warm, oval pan de agua, spread with creamy melted butter and thin slices of delicious farm cheese, always laid out in ceramic plates, covered by other ceramic plates. A small metal mug of sweet café con leche to wash it all down. The bread was purchased only moments before from a young bread seller who roved the neighborhood on foot, announcing himself, "Panadero, panadero," carrying his fresh out-the-oven product in an enormous basket covered with a light cotton cloth. Reaching into her ample bosom, my grandmother, Mama, would pull out a worn black leather change purse with a golden clasp from which to pay the boy, but not before she criticized something about the quality of the day's bread, or its price, or the late hour at which he was peddling it. It was hard to please Mama. Maria del Pilar Arias Guerrero, Mama to us and Doña Pilar to everyone else, was a serious, reserved woman. She could at brief turns be affectionate and perceptive, but was, in general, a woman who frowned often. My grandmother was very fair-skinned. Full of pride, she let it be known that her family had descended from Spain, with blue eyes no less. Despite the delusion of white supremacy with which she was raised, and which she fed her entire life, as if it was a precious poodle, she fell deeply in love with a man of African descent. My grandfather, 11 years her senior, was not conventionally handsome by Dominican standards, but was blessed with captivating charm and swagger. What is known as Black in the United States, in DR, his particular shade is called Indio, even though there isn't a Taíno to be found anywhere on the entire island. Thank you.
Okay, so relatable. Aren't we all from Spain? The time that I've heard that growing up, we definitely from Spain. There were so many lines that I just like love that she said her entire life. I just that's just cool. I love it. Thank you. Next up, Jocelyn Perez, Las Doñas of my Domain.
Thank you, everybody. So far, these are so amazing essays. La Doñas of My Domain. I wrote about 4 women that are very important in my life. Today, I'm going to talk about Mommy, my strength, my warrior, and the one I call my best friend. As I walk through the doors, I encounter the familiar sounds of the spoon against the pot, the savory smells of adobo, carne, and oregano, the sound of her voice full of joy, the touch of her warm embrace memorable. As an adult, I cherish all these details. She's the one that taught me to smile, to be strong, to get up and not stop for anything or anyone. Mommy is that constant part of my life. We share a bond that I can't imagine being without. She is mi doña. She taught me how powerful education is, even though she never finished high school. She guided me to be successful and never depend on anyone. Taught me that I could be anything I wanted when I wanted. That man in my life was to adore, respect, and love me, but that I should still be able to take care of myself. By the time she received her visa, she had already divorced Papi. She worked hard to bring me to the US alone, bringing me to New York when I was only 10 years old. I always saw Mommy learning, working, and moving. She never sits still. In DR, I recall her learning pottery to sell her creations. In New York, she went to school to learn English, got her driver's license, became a US citizen, and went to school to become a home attendant. She worked in a hotel as a housekeeper for many years, where her English got so much better. Even now, retired, she doesn't sit still. As part of her church community, she assists with all kinds of events. I always tell her to stop and breathe. Can't do that, she insists. I'm so proud of her. And because of her education and guidance, I am who I am today. Gracias, Mami.
That was a beautiful dedication to your mom. I hope she read that. I hope she was like in tears. That was beautiful. Thank you, Jocelyn. Jahaira, you're an obituary for my grandmother, page 52.
All abuelas are badasses. Mine was the baddest. We called her Mama, but everyone else called her Doña Luz. She'd never lived in La Capital. No one from El Listín, CDN, or DR1 came to write her obituary when she passed away from stomach and pancreatic cancer. She was just a wife, mother, and grandmother to 9 kids. She'd lived her entire life in Andrés Boca Chica under the shadow of the town sugar mill. By the time I was born, her hair was gray with a broad white mechón on the left side of her head. Her voice was a bit raspy, y cuando echaba 2 o 3 coños, it made everybody freeze. Once, when I was 8 or 9, I grabbed an avocado off a table. The fruit had fallen from one of the trees in Mama's backyard. I rolled it around in my hands and squeezed until green mush burst out of the top. Stupidly, I put it back, and not long afterward, Mamá made a frustrated sound. ¿Quién me cogió uno de los aguacates y le dio un apretón? She yelled. All the children gulped. Hands clammy, I stepped forward. Fui yo, Mamá, I said. ¿Fuiste tú? She asked, surprised. Sí, Mamá. My cousins scattered, abandoning me. Mamá nodded slowly. Me gusta que me dijiste la verdad. Los aguacates no se aprietan, okay? Today, I'm an adult with a teenage child and still can't help but equate avocados with truth-telling.
I want to just keep going. I can't even see an avocado now without thinking of this essay. I've read it so many times. Thank you, everybody. Okay. There's more in here. For whoever wants to pick that chapbook up. Okay. So before everyone in the comment section gets to ask their questions, I just want to say thank you again for reading those. They were really good. Like, I could not stop reading them, and I read them a bunch of times. But okay, so let's start talking about this, guys. What was the writing process like for you? Anybody want to comment on that? Like the experience, like what emotions it brought up? Anybody? No order.
I could start. Having to write about these 4 women that I wrote about, my mom, my 2 grandmas, and my mother-in-law, was very hard. And even to click submit and send it to you guys was even harder. It took me a few days, and I really had to dig deep in those memories that brought me happiness and those things that really were special about each one. So I had to really, there was so many examples that I could have come up. I had to like edit a lot, but I'm glad with what I came up with.
No, it was great. And you named multiple women in your life, not just not just your grandma. Like, you went in on like, get them all in there.
I tried.
I like the separate sections. That was different. I like that.
Thanks.
Anybody else? No.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
For me, it was almost like a deep sense of gratitude and like introspection that kind of like forced me to get into the state of like really thinking about my life in like this big picture context, which I don't do very often, but it sort of like thinking about everything that it took for me to end up where I am, I think is a really common experience for people who grow up in families of immigrants and families who are faced with all these different like marginalizations and things that requires so much sacrifice. And the sort of like process of assimilating to the different cultures and all these things, and recognizing that there's a separation that happens there, and just sitting with that and like being grateful and trying to understand it as much as you can, which is where it sort of became about decoding that sort of like mystery that is just sometimes hard to think about, and just makes me really grateful for being here. Yeah.
Thank you. Who else is gonna comment on that?
I'll comment. I'd say for me, it was pretty easy because my grandmother was a very strong figure in our family. And I spent a lot of time in the Dominican Republic, and she spent time here in her later years in my apartments. I'd say what was actually harder was kind of releasing it to the world, especially my family, because even though we all knew her, I was a little nervous that people may not like all of the depiction, which I tried to, give a not balanced, but a nuanced look at who she was and why she was how she was. So it was a good experience. But after it was accepted, I was like, oh no, what did I do? But thank you. Thanks for, just letting us tell our stories.
No, I'm grateful that you guys are brave enough to put it out there. I know that each person's experience with their grandparents or with their mothers, it's different. And, you can't all take it as like, oh, everything's great, everything's beautiful. No, there's some, like you said, there's sacrifices involved. There's different dynamics in each relationship. So it's good to just put it all out there because I feel like more people could relate to the reality of that.
I just dropped in the chat something, the YouTube channel that you mentioned earlier, my podcast, and there's a two-part episode on the Dominican Republic, and actually my mom and my partner's parents' stories in DR, growing up in DR, and then their immigrant journey. So for folks who are interested, you could check it out.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to I'm thinking through what everybody's saying too. And I love what you said, Elinor, about like this mystery right? That you're sort of unraveling and trying to figure out what that means to you. And then also, Gina, what you said about like trying to like nuance this image that you have, this understanding that you have of someone that's important. And I think for me, both of those things are very true. I think I wrote this piece as part of a larger project months before this submission even, so I thought it was just like amazing how I was asking for the exact thing that I had already sort of started working on. And I mean, first off, thank you for giving the space to share it. I had never seen something so specifically aligned with something that I'm sort of obsessed with, right? Like a very unique experience. And I was just so grateful to be able to share it. And I think, for me, it was sort of trying to figure out, what are these memories telling me? Like, why does my mind go there when I want to write a story, right? And what is that? This image pops up and then I have to sort of write it. And for me, it was more like, why is it taking me there, right? Like there's something that I feel like I need to figure out about my roots or what storytelling means for me. Like, do I see myself as a storyteller? And if so, and if I can, go through the process of actually validating that about myself, how can I sort of tie it back to its origins, right? And this is where I started like, okay, this is all coming up for me because it's telling me something, right? It's trying to make me understand something about wherever I'm at right now, where I'm writing this. And I'm sure 20 years in the future, I'll read this and I say, oh, like, I remember when I wrote this and I was at this stage. And I just think that, I think that every story is sort of inviting that sort of reflection. And so this was, like I said, such a beautiful space to share it. And I'm just grateful. I'm so, so grateful.
Well, speaking of, what is that other project that you're working on? We're gonna have to read more of your work. put it in the comment section. Share with us. Okay, and since you mentioned that whole writing process and everything, I wanted to ask too, what was it like? Like, not only are these experiences specific to us Dominican writers, but also the way that you write, the way that we write, the Spanglish, the code switching, I think that's what it's called, right? So what is your guys' experiences with writing in Spanglish? Like a little bit of Spanish and English. I love that the quotes are in Spanish. You can hear the person's voice. You can see it, like se fue la luz or lo aguacate. It's specific to us, right? So like, what was your guys' experience with that? Have you done it before, or is this something newer? Go ahead.
I mean, I'll say that I'd never done it before. I mean, I've been writing a lot of fiction for a long time, and it's always really hard for me when I write fiction. For some reason, this was the easiest and most painful thing I've ever written. I mean, it flowed, it came out, but at times I cried when it came out, and I could hear her. And for me, like, I wanted to be really precise. Like, I wanted to make sure, did she say okay? I feel like she said okay. Because sometimes, like, she wanted to say, no, tú habla inglés, tú me vas a entender a mí. So te voy a decir okay. So I wanted to honor her, and make sure that, you know, I did right by her. And it wasn't until someone in my family read it and said, oh my God, that was her, that I knew I got it right.
No, I'm believing it. I don't even know her, but I heard her voice. I heard the whisper. I heard the raspiness. I was like, like, that's why I said, like, you girls should come prepared with tissues, because reading those, I was like, wow, like, you felt it. And it's, oh yeah, you came prepared. That's what it is with writing this way, writing in Spanglish, writing the way that we speak, writing the way that we communicate. It's more raw. You can feel everything so much more.
Yeah.
And I know a bunch of you also wrote that way. Anyone want to say how you felt about it, if you've done it before?
The pieces that, or the small phrases that came in Spanish, they felt so natural, like there was no other way to write it. And it just made me feel happy that that's still part of my internal voice, because one of the things I struggled with a lot was losing, or feeling like I had been losing my language as I was learning a new language. So in writing, that pops up a lot, and it's great to have that still be part of, like, the way I describe things or the way I think about things, even if it just like sneaks in sometimes. But it felt really good and natural, which I enjoyed.
Okay, I'm not gonna take up all the time for the question. I'm gonna see what everyone else is asking over here of you guys. Like, yes, my mom was awesome. I'm not sure who they're speaking for, but that was nice. Proud of your accomplishments. Let me see. Question for Catherine. How did your grandmother's influence play a role in your experience as a first-gen Dominicana?
I mean, I think that's such a good question. I think in every possible way. I think that for me, it was one of the things that I think that I was really trying to explore for myself was also like, not just us, and I think, Alina, you mentioned this too, of sort of existing between these two, you know, like trying to manage that tension between, and I think that I came to a point where I said, you know, I don't think that maybe I know I don't focus so much on trying to manage the tension, but validating the thing that I am, right? Like all of these things together, right? Like instead of that being little pieces of different identities, that is an identity in and of itself. And I think that like I think that also relates to the Spanglish, because I think for me, you know, there were certain things like my grandma would be like, you know, así no se dice, like it's like this, right? And I grew up here, so, you know, but I was going back and forth. And so I was always sort of trying to decide for myself what was the right way, both in English and in Spanish, right? What was the right way? And I think when I started writing these pieces, I had to sort of validate my own identity in order to be able to show up to the writing, in order to be able to trust myself to write it, I think, at all. And that like discomfort, I sort of had to just lean into it. And I think that my grandmother, I mean, she helped raise me, and she was such a pivotal person in my life that she has informed everything, my thought processes about everything, you know. And it was living with her those early years, and being with her, that I was able to experience what it meant to be Dominican, you know, when I was over there, and even here, and take that back with me. And she was also a storyteller. She was the one, the Doña, that told, you know, she had all the family information, you know, anything that you wanted to know from your cousins or third cousins or whatever, what happened in the year 1970, whatever. She had it, you know, like she stored that information. And she was the one who told me stories growing up. We shared a room. And so that's how I started putting together, you know, like a sort of family tree in my head. And it just stayed there. Like it wasn't formalized. It wasn't like in an archive. We didn't have nothing like that. It was just, we held it, we carried it within ourselves. And I think she taught me how to do that. So, yeah.
Can I just say real quickly that I think that, to add to what Kat is saying, I mean, you grow up with these amazing women, and you have these stories, but I don't think I really knew, and thank you for the opportunity for me to find this out, that how much she taught me, and the person that I am is so, she influenced so much of it. I mean, los aguacates. I mean, I never said that story. I never told that story to anybody until I wrote it down. And, you know, you go to the supermarket, sometimes you pick them up, or sometimes you see them, sometimes you smell to yourself. And I don't think I really understood until I wrote this how much of her is still in me. So thank you for that. Because that, thank you.
Yeah. I'm with you, Jahaira. One of the things that when I started writing about mi abuela Guilla, who died few years when I got here, and I wasn't able to travel back for her funeral. And writing that piece about her and me walking up those stairs and smelling the arepas and the cakes and all that. And that memory actually came to me of me going upstairs, seeing her in the little, trying to get on top of the counter because she was so small, like me. And that whole memory, it was great to be able to put that on paper and write about it, because to tell you the truth, I remembered as I was writing it, I had not remembered that memory. And sitting at her mecedora and talking to her, I didn't recall talking to her until I wrote it, because I was so young, but that was, in my memory. So I'm with you. It was great opportunity to bring that back into, to the front of my memories.
I feel too. I just want to respond to what you said, Jahaira, because I think they're so beautiful. And you're right about, like, you don't really see the extent to which, like, perhaps you have an idea, right? But you don't see the extent to which, like, the tentacles of those memories, and you can't get to them unless you start the sentences, right? And they'll just take you there. And I think it's such a beautiful way to, like, I think while I was writing this piece too, I had to it had to be for me, like, I had to see it as a way to sort of be with her, even though she's not here anymore, right? And I think that's true, right? Like, and I think that's what makes it emotional too, is that, like, the ways that we understand, the ways that we carry love beyond death, right, is through memories. And when we're writing these stories, it's just like, it's such important work to have to shift through those memories. And like Jocelyn was saying, like, really think about where was I, what was I doing, even though you were so young. I just think it's beautiful. And I love to see other people also, like, talking about their processes and everything too.
I think that's the best part of anthologies, that you can just get all these stories together and see how much you share with these experiences. Well, it says here, how emotional was it to write your story? They're asking. I think that covers it right there. We're all very emotional right now. I just want to say, like, the matriarch thing, it just comes along with that. What grandmothers, like, they made us the person that we are without even noticing, because our culture is very, like, machista. It seems like it's very, like, surrounding males, and everything's about the men, and the men get served their food, and the men are the ones that, the head of the household. But really, it's the women. The women are the ones that influence the entire family. And when they're gone, it's like we don't know what to do with ourselves. So this book is like really honoring them and paying tribute to them, whether it was our grandmothers or our mothers now. So what is okay? So Angie's asking, is this the first time that you guys published? No, a lot of you published, I think. I saw that you guys, a lot of you published. But publishing with us, how did it change your perception of being a writer? So if you want to talk about being published before, or how this is different than the mainstream publishing.
I could say I have never been published. This was my first time. So I feel very honored and amazing. So gracias. I have been a writer for a very long time, but a public writer since 2000. That means I have finally decided to share my stories and my writing and my poetry with others, slowly but surely. And it's nerve-wracking to put yourself out there, put your writing out there after writing for so long. Am I good enough? Am I, are people going to like what I write? Are they going to relate? And I have to say, Dominican Writers was one of the first ones that told me, and Angie, yes, people will relate. So go for it. So thank you for that. So it has just been a great process to have my name out there. So thank you.
Okay, I'm so happy we're your first. That's awesome. Makes it more special.
I'll say for me, I thought this process was just so like validating, and yeah, it was not like anything that I have ever experienced because of the back and forth in terms of like having you there, just Yamberlie, just like doing the editing process and like knowing that there was somebody who was already holding space for the story I was telling and giving me like feedback and just sort of like really being thoughtful about it. It just, having that process be there was very nice. Yeah, like it felt very like it was validating, and I really appreciated it, and I appreciate the space that Dominican Writers creates for exploring like creativity as somebody who's Dominican and a writer. And yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Can I just say real quick that I from years ago when I used to be a journalist, I have clips, and I decided I don't want to do that. I want to write fiction. So to get back in the game and be published with an essay, a very personal essay, I didn't appreciate then, but as the process went along, to work with you and know that it was going to be read by other Dominicans, I didn't hold back. I said, no, when she speaks, it's in Spanish, coño. Cuando echa el otro coño, that's what I'm gonna say. Like I didn't worry about who was reading it because I knew the audience and I knew the editor would get it. And as I've shared it with people who are not Dominican, don't speak Spanish, like a few have said, oh, I had to Google. I'm like, you had to Google.
Okay, Google.
Yeah, it wasn't, not that it wasn't for you, but there was an audience in mind. And I mean, again, thank you for you. Thank you to Dominican Writers. But I didn't appreciate how impactful that would be on the work. I just let it rip.
Yeah, I think that's what made them also like much more special, much like impactful, because we can all relate. It's like our language, it's like our people, we understand it. And working in mainstream publishing, it was like you don't read submissions that are like our words. You don't get the Spanish, not only the Spanish, but it's like, oh, it's writing in passive voice, or I'm like, but this is how I write. So it was amazing to get all these submissions and everything like looked like, I'm like, oh, I can relate to this type of writing. People write like this. I thought I was doing it wrong because I was writing like in Spanglish, or I was writing a certain way, the way we speak. And you guys are validating to me, knowing writers out there that, there is a space for us.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It was fun. It was amazing to read all these essays. It wasn't okay, who was talking?
Gina, I'd like to just piggyback on something that Jahaira said about you, Yamberlie, because you really pushed me. I mean, I've written before, been published in like magazines many years ago, but this is my first like hardcover, softcover book. And I feel like in the process, I love it. I screamed when I got it. You really pushed me, with certain things. I was just wanted to kind of be hands off. Like, I don't know about this. I don't know about a title. You make up a title, and you were like, no. So I just want to thank you doing that. Go ahead, say that again.
And so you have to own it. You have to like love what you're putting out there. So I'm like, no, you pick it. You love it. So yeah, no, I'm glad. Thank you for your kind words, everybody. It is a bit intimidating to know that like you read these bios. That's why I don't read the bios until like after it's published and everything like that. You get intimidated, like, oh my God, why am I fixing their work? Why am I editing their work when they're like these really, really smart women? And like, but it's I love the collaborative work, and the most important thing is like communication, so you know where everyone's at. Like, do you not like it? You can tell me to stop. You can tell me not to. Who was it? Somebody was like, oh no, like that's not my voice. I was like, okay, I will backtrack. Whatever feels comfortable for you. And so that's what I want to keep in mind with the editing process. And anyone that's thinking of contributing, you can tell the editor, like, no, that you can stop there. Like, I'm not comfortable with this. Like, so yeah. Do you guys have any questions for each other or any comments on each other's work?
Oh my God. Can I just say that I feel so blessed to be, I wrote in my Instagram, like, join me in this amazing, talented, I meant it. I don't feel like, I feel like I am so proud to be amongst this talented group of women. And it's like when we are growing up, I don't know in your families, but careers, writing wasn't something that I was encouraged to do. And so you don't know where your people are. And I feel like I've met my people.
Here for your people. I'm so happy that I found you guys. Like, it's amazing, right? Don't be a lawyer. Don't be this. Don't be that. Like, oh my God, what am I supposed to be?
Right.
So it's nice to find those spot where it's just like, okay, this works. Anyone else want to comment on each other's work, or any advice you have for future contributors?
Do it.
Do it, please.
Do it. You won't regret it.
And all of you, please continue to send those submissions. I have the whole year planned for everything. I loved reading your work and your styles. It really came together nicely, right? What do you guys think about the cover page and everything, right? Angie designed it herself. That was pretty cool, right?
That looks great. I loved it.
It's so cool, right?
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's a beautiful, I also kind of freaked out when I got it. And it was in this really beautiful green packaging with the leaves. The colors, and it was also vibrant and positive. And just to comment on everybody's stories, I felt like everything resonated so much, and I also feel very happy to be part of this community. And yeah, there are stories out there that we all have that we don't even know, like what Catherine said in her piece. there are stories that people have that we don't even know we need. So definitely tell them, and yeah, they will resonate because they're in there.
Let's not forget about the bookmark that came with the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to the artist.
I think there's a mug that matches that actually. Like whoever's watching this, go to the Dominican Writers page. I think the link is there for the chapbook too. Let's get any more questions. But yeah, the link is there for the chapbook if you guys want to pick it up. There's a bookmark. I see the bookmark. What was I gonna say? And then yeah. Any final thoughts, guys?
I also want to say thank you to you, okay, because Yamberlie, you made this happen. And I think like your enthusiasm throughout the whole process, I mean, you were as invested in this as we all were, I think, in like really beautiful way. And I felt like this wasn't just, it didn't feel, we did this quickly, right? Like it didn't feel rushed. It felt so intentional. It felt like it mattered, right? Like in a way that was beyond me. And I think we always have those doubts where it's like, oh, like, should I tell this part? Like, is that just something I think is, like part of the story? Like, and I think I don't think anybody would have read that piece had it not been for this opportunity. And it was really beautiful to have posted it and have like family and, family from DR and family like from all over saying like, oh my gosh, I remember that. Like I had those memories, like, and then just finding themselves in the piece. And I think that like just coming together to do that was so like, it was such a beautiful experience. And like, you were like the center of all of that, of all that movement. So thank you so much for that.
Well, speaking of like it being so rushed, which it was, because one day the idea was there and the next day like Angie does not play, like you have an idea, she'll run with it. Okay, you want to do that, let's do that. Okay, and we did it. So, like to write your portion, because it's true, like the call for submissions went out and like immediately these essays come in and then like all of a sudden we have a book. I'm like, wait, what? So like did you guys just have them like in a folder somewhere on your computer and then this just showed up? Let me just end it. Like, how long did it take you to write this? Because they were really well written. I felt like, what do I need to edit? They're already done. So, what do you guys think? How long did it take you to write and get it?
I remember it took me about 2 hours because I had been thinking about it for years. So I knew the structure, I knew the stories, like, I just hadn't given myself permission to do it.
Oh. I love it. Well, I'm glad you did. That it hit hard.
Thank you.
I was like, oh my God.
Thank you.
You girls, like anyone?
I'm thinking about what you said about you've been thinking about it for years. And I feel like that's how it happens, right? You have the idea or you just have this thing that sort of you think about a lot, like, or it comes up in your mind a lot. And I feel like that's really when we start writing it, right? Like that's when we start sort of forming it. And like for me, this started off as one of the paragraphs in this was like part of an assignment I submitted for a class that had nothing to do with this. And that's when it really started. That was like the seed that was planted. And then I just sort of started working on it. And like I said, I thought it was amazing when this submission was asking for that, but I think it does start before you actually sit down to write a lot of the times. So it's hard to quantify like that. Yeah.
And how do you guys even come across the submission thing? Were you already following Dominican writers like on social media, or how do you come across? Yeah, the call for submissions. Okay. Just to make sure we're getting it out there. So like we want more writers, more Dominican writers out there. Like that is the whole point of the Dominican Writers Association, to get us published. Our stories matter and they're different and interesting and funny and like it's us. So social media, all right, it's working. We're good.
Yeah.
The book art is by Vanessa Fabre. I really can't pronounce half the things properly. Well, it's there in the comments, so you guys can check it out. And okay, so before we go, is there I know Gina has the podcast and the YouTube videos, but are there any projects that you want to let everyone know about? Any publications coming out, any projects?
So I'm currently finishing up a children's book that I co-authored with Liliana Espinal, and we are almost there. We've been working on it for a while, but we're hoping to get it out there. It's gonna be called Luna, Missing Mommy and Papi, and it's about a young girl from the Dominican Republic where her parents moved to New York, and it's actually more about her emotional state when she stays over there with her grandma. So I'm hoping that will come out soon. And I'm also working on a memoir regarding my fertility journey as a Latin woman. So I'm hoping that will come out soon as well.
Nice. Keep us posted. Definitely. We'll share, you know.
Definitely. Thank you.
Send it over. Anybody else? Anybody? Am I missing anybody?
Well, I'll just put it out there that next month I'll be performing. I'll be doing a reading. It's in person. It's hosted by Jessie Alvarez from Digging Press. So she hosts a monthly sort of like lit review where three writers and a musician perform, and it's based off of a topic. So the topic for the month of July will be compassion. And I'll post more details about it on social. But yeah, that's up and coming.
Nice. Yeah. Share. That's awesome.
I'll share something. So this is part of, like I said, a larger project. I have another essay that also is, my grandma's in it again. So if you want to read more about Doña Natalia, I have another piece coming out in the fall of Ofrenda magazine, their fall issue. So that'll be digital, but yeah, I'm excited and I'll share it and everything. So
you're okay. We gotta promote each other. We gotta put our names out there.
I'll share real quickly that I'm working on a novel, and I gave myself a deadline of 3 months. So for a first draft, yeah. But no, I don't have anything in the works right now other than that.
A novel sounds pretty big to me. I just think, well, that's dedication right there. But if you can get this essay out in 2 hours, then I believe you.
But I mean, again, going off what Kat was saying, it only happened because I knew every paragraph, I knew the structure, I knew most of the sentences, because I have been thinking about it for decades. So that's the only reason why it came out so quickly, because I gave Dominican writers helped me give myself permission.
Well, I don't know. Well, I think we can all say that we're super grateful for Dominican writers for this platform. For Angie, thank you, Angie, if you're listening. I think we've all had a lot of fun with this project and with everything that Dominican writers offers. I think that's it, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the final thoughts. We already encouraged people to submit to the next call for submissions. Second chapbook on Dominican's Moms Be Like, which is supposed to be, this one was really sad. The next one's supposed to be super funny, which it is. That one's out soon, so you guys can check that one out. And then we'll just roll right into the Film Papi ones. So I haven't started that, but we'll get around to that. And what else? Yeah, tomorrow night. So if you guys want to come back and check out the next batch of contributors for La Doña, I mean, maybe ask some questions or share thoughts on their essays. Yeah, that's tomorrow at 7. Oh, okay. So Angie said Dominican Moms is on pre-order on the website. So go get your copy. I'm going to have a whole collection of little tiny books.
Oh, and can I say something? I heard that this is on Barnes and Nobles. Did anybody know that? Barnes and Noble, you can get this. Yes. My friend who's watching right now told me this. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
I-
to my friend. And yeah, so check it out.
Awesome.
like we did it, guys. Okay. I don't know. I'm still like freaking out about it. I'm still like, is this real? But yeah. Everybody, let me see. It will be distributed by more than 40K retailers. No pressure. Wow. Like, you guys are gonna be out there.
Wow. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Like, you guys gotta start signing your copies for people.
Mm.
Oh, Target and Walmart.
Wow. That's
Barnes.
insane.
Target, Walmart. What else? What else, Andy? And will be an ebook soon.
Wow.
And that blows my mind because when we, like with this little idea, like, oh, let's just put people's essays out there. Like, among many others. I mean, it just goes to show like people need this, people want this, and it resonates with everyone, you know? It's different. Like, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That made my night. I don't know about you guys. Talk about a celebration, right? Okay, I think that's it, guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Espérense. It brings us great joy when writers respond to our call for submissions, and we always want to make them feel special. I hope you guys feel special.
Absolutely.
Very special. Thank you.
All deserve to be published. Our stories matter. That was from Angie, by the way. All right.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Yep. Okay.